This is Yerushalmi Peah Daf Tez Vav, according to the Art Scroll Oz V'Hadar edition, which is where I'm going to start from the second line, which in the Vilna edition is the second line from the bottom of Tesam Rav. Now, the next line is extremely difficult. There are very many different explanations of what's going on here. I'm going to go more or less with the Kabanaki, and I'm trying to understand it along those lines. V'lema, let's say, api kurim yechayv, api shlomirach. We just said, God was saying that bikurim, even after miruach, is part from Truma. That's what we said yesterday. Yesterday's in the top line. So the Gemara says, well, let's maybe it's the other direction. You know, that's true. Maybe bikurim is chayv and Truma even before miruach. Okay, granted, it's not the same. It has its own parameters. But maybe the moment you're mafresh bikurim, it's chayiv and truma, because it's that's kind of like the gemara malacha, and therefore it should be chayiv and truma. So the Gemara, I don't know if the Gemara really was serious about this, but that's the question. You know, because maybe it should be chayiv and truma. Even before miruach, because when you took off, so to speak, out of circulation, it's tantamount to miruach. It's tantamount to miruach. That Vaida Amrada. So it's interesting. The Nashas here has a whole discussion that Vaida in Yerushalmi sometimes means. I'm going to read his lashon. He says. Hainu hecha nemar davar zeh. Vaida Amrada. Where does it say it? Shnei tevos. It's two words contracted together. For haida, they made that in the vaida. Vu kampam Yerushalmi that would make contractions. Spurish ken. Alifam and he calls Shem Chacham. Vaida. So also Chacham in the Yerushalmi is called Vaida. And he appears several places in the Yerushalmi. It says again, basically you have to figure out each place according to the context, whether it's Vaida or Vaida where do we find such a thing, or it's Vaida the name of a Chacham. So here it's pretty obvious that it's Vaida where do we find such a thing. But the problem is that the next one is not really is going to contradict this one this question which you just posed. So the Mashbiach changes this to Laida Amrada. In other words, this is why did you have to tell me this? It's Pashut that Bikurim should be chayiv in Truma before Miruach. So Laida Amrada, why did you tell me this? But that too is very difficult because we just learned as a question. So just on a question, how can you say that now? Why did you have to tell me this on a question? You can't go back to a question and say that. So the Vaida Amrada, I think here means a little bit different than its normal context, but not so much. Most of the Gilin Shas. What tells you that's not true? What tells you that the fact that you can't be Chai Bikurim Truma Bikurim? Vaida Amrada. What tells you that you can't be Chai Truma Bikurim? Whether it's before Miruach, after Miruach, it doesn't make a difference, right? Because let me question about Bikurim, Shehain, Bikurim Lakol, because they come first. Anything which comes before something else, the next thing is chayiv in the first thing, but the first thing is not chayiv in the next thing. So therefore, Truma conceivably could be chayiv in Bikurim, but Bikurim can't be chayiv in Truma because Bikurim is the very first thing. So therefore, once you take it off as Bikurim, it can't be considered like a Gemara Malacha. It means it's out of the running. It's a better term for that, but it's out of play, and therefore there's no truma from it. So the Gemara's question was, we said yesterday that Hivish bikurim mikrim ruach b'patim truma gedoyla. Took a bikurim from a kri even after miruach it's patim truma gedoyla. And now the Yerushalmi says, how do you know? Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe even before miruach. If you took once it's satisfied bikurim, it's chayim truma because it's like kind of a gemar malacha. Once it's satisfied bikurim, says Marika, says Yerushalmi, it can't be because bikurim is first, right? And therefore they any and not vice versa, and therefore bikurim there's no way to say you're chayiv. Gemara goes on. We had in our Mishnah that you could give because so that hefker, Kavanoki explains also in the Mishnah, sounds like it's a hefker in addition to the peah. It's saying that even though you already gave peah and you want to add on, and that additional amount you give the name is also potter, but it's potter not because of peah, because you finished giving peah. This is because of hefker. You give hefker until miruach, and it's still going to be potter from trumas and maisros. So the Gemara says that only works out according to Beis Shammai. Masis Beis Shammai, the Beis Shammai hefker and Yom hefker. Shammai says hefker for poor people is hefker. Beis Hillel holds the only hefker works only if it's both the rich and poor indiscriminately. But clear in our Mishnah, it's going only to the aniyim, and yet nevertheless it's considered to be hefker. You could have answered that. I think you could have answered that. He's asking, he's only making hefker for everybody. He's just going to call the aniyim first to take it. But obviously, I'm saying that if it's really as it says in our Mishnah, the hefker just aniyim, then it's only going according to Rabbi Akiva, according to Beis Shammai. Now, the next part of the Mishnah said that you can take from the silo and plant without taking maisers, as long as you take off before they take from the silo before miruach. So the Gemara says that's right, and that was Rabbi Akiva said that. And the Gemara says Asher Rabbi Akiva Chaniyos Beis Choron. The Sharters are based on the Bavli and Bamatia Peches Amrav that there's a curse of Beis Hino, and in the Christian Bible it seems that this is a place at the top of Har Zaysim, and that it's well known that when the Romans laid siege on Yerushalayim, that's where they set up their camp. And evidently they raised Beis Chanun, Beis Hinu in order to make their camp. So the Gemara says the Tani, Lama Charbu Chanios to Beis Chanun, the Bnei Chanon, the Beis Hinu, whatever it is, Shoshan Kohen Shachar Beis Hamikdash, for the 3 years before the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Shemotim Perosei Min HaMasros. They had a drasha to exempt their fruit from Meiser. The Avodah Shinan Aser Ta'aser Prat L'Lokeach. Aser Ta'aser seems to be difficult, so the Tushar Torah brings down a girsa says Ta'aser Ta'aser Tuaz Zarecha Prat L'Lokeach. In other words, somebody who purchases the grain or whatever it is, it's not Tuaz Zarecha. He didn't plant it, so therefore, according to they said Lokech is butter from Maisrus. And then they darshened the Bachalta, only if you eat. That means Moicher, part of the Moicher. The seller doesn't have to take off the Meiser either because he's not going to eat it. So the buyer doesn't have to take it off because he didn't grow it, and the seller doesn't have to take it off because he's not. He's not eating it. So the Rabbi Kiva is saying something similar. Of course, it's not the same thing. It's not going to say the same thing. Chanios Beis Chanan, who were punished from Shemayim for this, but he's saying there are ways if you take out your grain for planting and you don't intend to eat it. So then, in that case, you'd be potter from Maisrus. Now, it's only if you take it before Miruach, but the point is that at that point, still, if you take it, since you are not going to use it for the purpose of eating, or for the purpose of you're not going to use it for the purpose of eating, that's why you're potter from Maisus at that stage. And it's similar in the structure of the drasha to what the drasha that they darshan in Chanukas Beis Chana. The next Gemara, Rabbi Yechana, is going back on the Mishnah. It says, Kohen v'Levi shalochu. It's a Kohen Levi who took shalochu sagoren. They bought a silo meiser shlehem ad sheyimorchu. They if they took it before Miyuach, so they get to keep the Maisrus. So the Gemara says on this, according Rabbi Yochanan, Knas Konsul they made a fine, and says the Moshe going to explain. Pushatan that was Sisa Kohen, but Yishlokas Kohen Kai Kabrish Mashlisin. We saw that Pnei Moshe when we were in the Mishnah, and that was telling us that the inference was that even though if you bought they took the Kohen before Miruach, they can keep the Chumas and Ma'aser themselves. If they took after Miruach, they can't keep the Chumas and Ma'aser for themselves. They have to do somebody else. Why? They should take it off and keep it. So the Gemara says, they're fine. They should not jump quickly into the presses and to the silos to elbow their way in, so to speak, to get the Trumas and Meisers over other people. So therefore, we said, okay, if you got it before Miruach, fine. But after Miruach, you can't keep the Trumas and Meisers to yourself because that's going to make it very competitive and it's going to make it very difficult for other Kohanim Levim to get an equitable chance. So therefore, if you jumped the gun and you took it before Miruach, then you can't keep the Chumas after Miruach. Sorry, then you can't keep the Chumas and Ma'aser for yourself. For Miruach, they want to go there. It's not shchiach. People don't usually go for Miruach because it's a chaim. The next case is Tabach Kohen. We have a sheichet who is a Kohen. Now the halacha is from any animal you shech, you have to give the Zorel Chaim and Keva, an arm, the cheeks, and the stomach to the Kohen. What if the sheichet himself was a Kohen? So Chabrai B'Shem B'Shub and Levi Patlo Shabbos Achas. The first week he doesn't have to give the Zorel Chaim Keva to other people. Afterwards, he has to start giving it to other people, other Kohanim. Rabbi Yossi, it says, as Lisa Dorama, Shamis Rabbi Chanan, the Buid Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Shimon Levi, Patole Shabbos Achas, or on Shabbos. Rabbi Yonah Medame Leila Adad Rabbi Yochanan, Knas Kontzabim. He says, why do we only give him on Shabbos? It's a Knas, just like we said above, by the Kohanim Levim would jump and go to get the grain for themselves that they can't keep the Chumas and Maises for it. We make them keep it to other Kohanim Levim. Here too, we don't let them keep it. He has to give it to other Kohanim Levim. So the Gemara, by the way, in the Bavli, I think it's Chulin Beis, it says that you give them 2 or 3 weeks. But the question is the same question. Rabbi Yosef said, if you're finding him, Shabbos Achas lo yiftar lo. We shouldn't give him off one Shabbos. And we have such machlekes. Chen Boni Kohen, Rabbi Yonah Amar Pochin lo Shabbos Achas. You give him off one Shabbos. We let him go for one Shabbos. Yes, Ain't Pochin lo Shabbos Achas. We don't let it go even 1 week. So now here it's talking about actually not the tabach. It's talking about a chenvani. Slightly different case. He's not the sheichet. He's the butcher. But it's already his same issue, right? It's according to one opinion, he gets to keep it for 1 week, and the other opinion holds that we don't even give him 1 week. So I'll dive to Rabbi Yossi. According to Rabbi Yossi, Ma ben Chaim ben tabach. What's the difference between the Chenvani, where you don't give any weeks, and the Tabach, where you say you did give him 1 week? Rabbi Yossi heard that from the Rema. What's the difference between the two? So, Chenvani Yochel Harim. The Chenvani can treat, can trick. I'm sorry. Tabach Eno Yochel Harim. The Chenvani can say, his Kohen, he can say, this is Chaim Keva. No, I got it from somebody else. They gave it to me. So therefore, he can say, he can always say, oh, no, I got it from elsewhere, and that would be our Rama, because in fact he got the animal. Evidently, he got the side of beef, whatever it is, before the Zohar Chaim and Cable taken off, and therefore he had to take it himself. And to keep, we're afraid he's going to keep for himself. So and he can always say that I got the Zohar Chaim Cable as a Kohen, not as part of the wholesale animal, and therefore we don't keep it 1 week. The butcher, the shochet, everyone knows he didn't get it from anybody, from somebody else. He can't fool us and say, oh no, I didn't, I got it from elsewhere, because he's the shochet, he shechted it. So the Kavanaki says that Kavanaki actually learns, like the Mara Fulda, that the Chanvani is one of sowing fruit, not meat. But let's and he says that the Imogene, well, I'll tell you anyway. Once he said that, he says the Chanvani can cheat because of fruit lasts, and he could say that later on that this fruit was from my first week, even though it was from later weeks. Supposed to meat, he can't keep it and say it's from my first week, because nobody's going to believe him. He takes later meat and says it's from my first week, because meat doesn't last for long; it rots. But he does say that based on Rashi and Chulin, that the reason why we give a tabach a week is because he has to set up his business. He has to get customers. Yeah, people have to know about him. So therefore, we give him a week and say, okay, the first week you probably might not get a chance to sell Zorah Chaim and Keva. Keep it. You might. I'm sorry. You might not get a chance to sell your meat properly, and we. I guess Zorah Chaim Keva he gets to keep and sell it also. In other words, before he establishes his shop and people come to buy from him, and his profit margin rises, so we let him perhaps profit from that Zorah Chaim Keva the first week, but not afterwards. Anyway, so now the Gemara is telling us that the Chanvani can't be married, the Taba can be married, and that's the difference between the two. No, the other way around. The Chanvani can be married. Tabak can't be married, and that's why Tabak gets 1 week, and the Chanvani doesn't get any weeks. Tani, lo nachlu Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Aokech Peres Mechubar and Goshen Chavim Maisros. Now, the question is, Rabbi and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi are the same person. So the Girsa is in the Mashbiya, in the Kavanaki is Berebi. Berebi is a name which does the one of the Gedoli Ador, whose name was Berebi. And so it's local Berebi, Rabbi Yonasi, if you buy fruit which is still connected to the ground from a goy, Shechav is Meisus, because you're harvesting them. But Sheisos and Shenichnas, Val Sheisrael, Asher Nichnas Tachtav. And also, if the Yisrael was took the fruit unmeisered, he has to meiser it. Kamanaki points out that even they're not mechubarim. If he buys it before miruach, it says Yisrael's memareach them, they're chayiv and shumas and meisers. So mechubarim is not be taken literally that it's still connected to the ground, but it means before the miruach of the non-Jew. And a second Jew buys him, the first Jew, he's chayiv as well, not like Chanios base Chonio base Hino, like we learned about before. Even though it's local chayiv. Amarchu alokech peros plushim mechavero b'shnas meiser oni. Somebody who buys fruit which is severed from the ground in a year meiser oni. The again, the Kamnaki says Plushin doesn't literally mean Plushin, but it means after Miruach. So he bought in the year of Meiser Oni. Then he got this grain after Miruach. So what happens to the Meiser Oni? Uh, so Amakal Pesach Mechaber B'Shnas Meiser Oni. You don't matter Echad Oni Bechad Moshe Oshim Motzim Yodo. You can't keep it. Whether he's rich or poor, even if he's poor, he can't keep it. He has to give it away. Rabbi Oshim Motzim Yodo. If he's rich, he has to give it away. Oni ain't Motzim Yodo. Oni can keep it. My time of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. What's Rabbi Yehuda Nasi's svara that you have to get rid of it, whether you're even if you're an Oni. So he says, "She'ein adam zocha b'lekach shechupeah shelo, kach lo yizkeh b'ma'aser oni shelo." You're not allowed to keep on lekach shechupeah. You're also not allowed to keep on ma'aser oni. We see from the fact that an Oni has to give lekach shechupeah that he doesn't get to keep it. That matnos sanim, even the Oni has to give. So to say ma'aser oni also he has to give to somebody else. Rabbi Omer. No, that was no. My time of the Rebbe or Bir Rebbe, according to Kabnaki's Girsa. Ain't toivlin. There's no such thing as tevel, the leket shulchan peah. So it's only the here, Ma'aser Oni tevel. It was already tevel. Fanit bal shul b'shuso shorishon. It was already tevel in the first fellow's b'shus, and before the Oni got it. The so leket shulchan peah. Since there's no concept of tevel, it's just a straight out matana. So therefore, an Oni has to give it to another Oni. He's not allowed to keep it to himself. But Ma'aser Oni in this case is different because Ma'aser Oni in this case actually is by the time when the Oni got it, he got it after Miruach, and since it's after Miruach, so therefore it's as if it's kind of like Maton Shalom or Kamishu Hormudamion. It's as if it's already Ma'aser Oni, and it's Ma'aser Oni doesn't come. You don't have to say that, but that's as if Mudamion, even though it would make it easier to understand. But really, it's what it means is that since there became tevel in the hands of the first fellow, because he did the miruach, so then when he gives it to the Ani, it's as if he's giving the Ma'aser Ani to the Ani. In other words, the Ani is not. It's not that the Ani is being taking his own Ma'aser Ani off and keeping it. It's the Ma'aser Ani which the first guy was chayev, and now he's keeping it, so to speak, part of the deal of his having acquired the grain from the first fellow. Now the Gemara says, so if that's the case. My time at Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. It's good svara. Okay, good svara. Why does Rabbi Yehuda Nasi say that we take it away from the Ani? So he says, yeah, you're right. It's mishum knas. Be consonant. In other words, we're afraid that people are going to go and buy buy the grain and use the poor people buy the grain and take the Ma'aser Ani for themselves, and therefore we don't want that to happen, and therefore we are not going to. Therefore, we consider him. We said he has to give it to other people. So I asked the Gemara, my time at the Rebbe. So if that's the case, why is the Rebbe constant? The Rebbe. So it says, Ashi yesh yada likach, ani em yada likach. A rich person can buy it, and therefore we would theoretically consider a rich person. Ani em yada likach. Ani is not going to go normally buying the grain because he can't afford it. He can borrow money and buy it, and therefore we consider him. If you're married, they don't normally borrow, so therefore we're not going to be kokonis him. Before we stop, it's interesting about the question of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and Berebi or Rebbe. So the Gillian Shas does speak about it, and he says first of all it's not Tosefta. We don't find it anywhere, but it's a Derech Yerushalmi Seitani even though it's not Tosefta or Brisa. And he says you even find it several times in the Bavli. But then he says, Lo Matzinu Shel Yechel Rebbe Ravina Nasi. So Rashi in Beitza writes that this is Rebbe and Rabbi Nasiya. The grandfather and grandson were arguing with each other. The Rambam doesn't bring down this whole thing of Lokech Peres Lushin, Shas Meiser Ani, and sorry, he says it's Sarchi, and the Rambam doesn't bring it down. Okay, be that as it may, that's it for tonight. Okay, and we got pretty far on the next. How far do we get? Finish the parak. Mazel tov. So we got all the way to the bottom of Tes Zayin Rav. I didn't have a place to stop before we got to the end of the parak, which is really a place to stop. So I apologize for going over, but save us some time tomorrow.